if you know you're about to get a refund and you do this Roth conversion because you know the refund will pay for it, it's girl math, right? Like, it's like free money.
We just lost all the new subscribers.
Welcome to the Fiscal Foxhole, the podcast proving you don't need a degree in finance, just some grit, a game plan, and maybe a sense of humor. Your hosts are retired Army veteran Rob Moore and retired Marine veteran Omen. Together, they'll help you dodge financial landmines, call in the air support on your savings, and laugh at the ridiculous money mistakes we've all made. If you can survive mandatory fund days, you can survive personal finance. Welcome to the Foxhole.
Welcome back to the Fiscal Foxhole. I am your host for today, Rob Moore, and joining me as always is retired proud Marine Omen.
Hey Rob, what's happening?
What's happening? I feel like I've been shot out of a cannon today. I've got my coffee in the Fiscal Foxhole mug. We talked about that a few episodes ago. Yeah, very happily. I use that often. Thanks again to Megan. Feeling good today. Mostly because I checked the numbers from the podcast this morning from the listeners. And I think a lot of our listeners are, I would say, violating rule number 1 about Fiscal Foxhole, but actually basically we begged them to share the show. They're following rule number 1 of Fiscal Foxhole. Apparently people have been sharing the show because last few weeks have shown quite a jump in numbers, and really proud and really happy. But I don't know about you, part of it sort of puts some pressure on me. Okay, now we have to start getting this right. Can't be putting out bad information.
No pressure. If we're going from 2 listeners to 4 listeners, it's not a huge amount of pressure there, right?
That's 100% growth. That's 100% is all that matters, right?
Yeah,
we really appreciate it. Thank you for anybody that's sharing this. And to our new listeners, welcome. We're happy to have you here in the Foxhole. Omen and I record this weekly within a foxhole. That's little though. We haven't talked about that in a while, but here we are in our foxhole on our ongoing eternal FTX, our field training exercise here, nerding out about numbers and finance. So we're happy to have you with us. Hope you enjoy the show. Today, I'm feeling good about that. Feeling good. I got my coffee, but you don't sound like you're feeling so hot today.
It has been a rough last few days. I blame my last run, my really, really cold run, on the way I'm feeling today, just now coming out of things. But yeah, it was kind of questionable whether or not I was going to show up in the foxhole with you today. Didn't want to get you sick.
That run that you were so proud about.
No, I was proud about that. I was an idiot. Let's be honest here. I was an idiot, but I was proud. A proud idiot.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Because if God forbid something happened, then I would have to go through the process of cashing in the life insurance policy I have on you. I don't know if you knew about that. We are business owners here.
Didn't we sign each other's life insurance agreement that we're going to buy this show off each other if one of us isn't showing up?
That's right. Well, we do have the cross-buy agreement, or the buy-sell agreement, right?
Buy-sell, yeah.
Yeah, so basically means I would have to buy your assets of this business of the podcast. Yeah, that was the agreement. So it'd be all mine. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've already got that. I don't even know why. I went ahead and put out a $2.5 million policy on your life, though. I hope you're aware.
for the free podcast.
Yeah,
that's good.
You're going to need a food taster at the next convention with me around. Be careful.
We really haven't thought about this. We haven't thought this through. What if one of us didn't show up for the podcast one day? What would you do? What would I do? Who would we reach out to for a quick co-host? I have no idea.
I've got 2 or 3 people lined up, ready to go. Okay. I've talked to them about it. Hey, listen, if this Omen thing doesn't work out, let's go. Well, I hope you're feeling better soon, buddy. And I'm proud of you for showing up today to work, to do the show with me, because we've got a lot of fun in store today. We're going to talk about Roth conversions. Once again, we talked about this a few months ago. It was around Thanksgiving, I believe, episode 10. If you need a primer on Roth conversions, you maybe pause, go back, episode 10. We talk all about Roth conversions and the details. We're going to still touch on that today, but that one was a little bit more detail oriented. Today's more about the TSP and how it's doing it, because that went live. But before we get into all that goodness, we've got this date in history. I'm going to throw this one to you, buddy. This one's all about the Marines.
Normally you're the one with the history here, but I thought this was a fairly significant week. As we release this episode, we're just a couple days past the anniversary for the flag raising at Mount Suribachi for the Battle of Iwo Jima during World War II. So on February 23rd, 1945, 6 U.S. Marines raised the American flag atop Mount Suribachi. The moment, of course, was captured by the Associated Press photographer Joe Rosenthal, and the image became one of the most iconic photographs in American military history. The photo itself actually later inspired the Marine War Memorial in Arlington, which I've run around many of times. Rob, I don't know if you've been around that war memorial. That is a great monument there. So a couple of the notes from this is that battle actually continued for another month after the flag was raised. Nearly 7,000 service members were killed during that fight, and 3 of the 6 Marines in the photograph did not survive that battle. So pretty significant event in American history there, and one definitely a keynote in Marine Corps history.
It's an icon of icons, that image. Yeah, everyone knows it. Everyone's seen it. It's so popular too. One day I was taking my young son, well, he's older now, but it was quite a while ago. We were driving down, we would golf at Quantico every once in a while. And he actually identified the image that's built into the building. If you don't know, look up an image of the Marine Corps Museum in Quantico, Virginia. The actual profile of the building is built as a tribute to the Iwo Jima photograph that we're talking about here. So it's just a beautiful moment of like strife and struggle and victory against all odds. And the fact that like so many Marines died there, including 3 of them that participated in that flag raising, is really wonderful and powerful. So I appreciate you bringing that up as this day in history. Moving on to, I guess, more, I wouldn't say more serious, but let's say maybe less reverent ideas. We do have a headline to share from ThinkAdvisor in this week's headline. This week's article comes to us, like I said, from ThinkAdvisor, and the author, thank you again, Omen here, Popke. So I'm not even going to try, but first name Michael, last name Popke. Well done. Anyway, the name of the article, title article, is 401k balances rose 13% in 2025. Now, if you click into this article, you'll see it's just more of a kind of a check-in on the information. It's not a long article. It's just some basic facts about what happened in 2025 regarding 401ks and balances and some of the behaviors of people saving into these accounts. I like that we brought this in today because we just talked about in the last episode that there are a bunch of Americans don't even know what a 401k is, which is a little dismaying. The nice thing is there's a lot of good news built into this article that kind of flies in the face of that, which is good. It's refreshing. Quoting from the article, U.S. workers on average increased their 401k balances by 13% in 2025, reaching an average of more than $113,000. According to new data released by Bank of America, contribution rates remained consistent through the fourth quarter of last year at an average of 7.2%.
When I saw this article, especially after the article that we read last week, just such a contrast in what we saw in terms of Americans not knowing what a 401k was. And now we see data that says that of the Americans that do know what a 401k is, they are saving more into their 401k. Definitely a good news story here, in my opinion.
It is a good news story. I'm going to point not to the balances growing by 13% because I have something for that in a moment. It's the savings rate of 7.2% that stays stat. That to me, that's good news. We want to try to hit a savings rate anywhere from 10 to 20% for most folks. So hopefully that 7.2% is part of maybe other savings tactics into another type of savings vehicle to get the people to 10%. But that's better than I thought it was going to be. And as long as it's staying static and staying good, cool. Now, can I pop the balloon? Can I just poke a hole?
Why not? This? I mean, are you not going to not pop the balloon?
This is what I'm here for. You can count on me. The S&P was up by like 15% in 2025. The Dow was up 12%. So when I read this, like, 401k balances rose 13%, I'm like, yeah, it should have. Like, even if no one contributed anything, it should be up anywhere from 10 to 12, 15%. So I wondered if this was adjusted for the returns. It didn't say anything. I looked at it, I was like, well, let me see if this is adjusted for the return, to see if it was kind of like excluded that fact, but it didn't say anything about it. So I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be adjusted for the returns, but I would kind of pull you back to your own point of the 7.2% savings rate. Like that savings rate is an indicator that people are actually actively putting money away into their 401k. So good news there. And it also, this article spoke to some of the reasoning behind why these savings rates might be actually increasing. The use of automation, for one, is you just kind of set your percentage and forget it and let it ride. And then number two, the ease of use. You know, in TSP, actually, I would consider it fairly easy, but it's not you making an adjustment in TSP about how much you're contributing to the TSP. You actually have to go into My Pay, make your contribution over there, and then it contributes over into TSP, and then you make your adjustments in TSP. Arguably, like to you and me, I don't think that that's too terribly difficult, but it is two separate places you have to go, which presents friction. And when you present friction to people, it makes them a little less likely to do the thing. You know, we talk about getting a pay raise and adjusting your savings percentage by 1%. They're maybe a little less likely to do that.
Correct. Yeah. So the automation saves a lot of people in that regard. You'd have to do it once. You have to go into MyPay and TSP. You have to do those chores. You absolutely have to do it. But once you get it set up, the nice thing is for those participants who use the automation, is listed here in the article, it says that the average account balance is more than $170,000. That's more than $50,000 higher than the overall average. So the folks who have that automation, they're winning because they don't have to do those friction points every single time. Like, hey, this is a good year, so I'm going to have to go back in and do all this and contribute whatever I can. And then the automation helps everybody.
Yeah, we should just sponsor the show. Like the show should be sponsored by automation. I seriously love automation so much because it just makes your life easier. We talked about the systems and the goals and how to like overcome the fact that your motivation level to do a thing is going to waver after a while. So when it does, it should settle on automation.
Amen to that. Another good point to this article, he talks about there's apparently fewer loans and hardship withdrawals happening in 401ks across the board. I can get in the details here, but generally speaking, it looks like people are taking fewer loans, less hardship withdrawals. You could maybe point to that's either a good economic factor, which the economy's been better as of late, or it could be better, behavioral practices, hopefully better budgeting, better people being more mindful about their money, whatever, what have you. It's just good news to see. And I'm glad people are A, automating, and B, being more careful and trying to avoid those hardship withdrawals and or loans from the 401k.
Yeah, this one actually had me scratching my head a little bit because from an economic standpoint, I wasn't quite sure why this, to me, this doesn't seem to match up necessarily with what I'm hearing and what I'm reading about our economy. However, two factors I think might play a part in this. Number one, out of sight, out of mind, right? When your retirement account is just kind of on automatic and it's off to the left-hand side, maybe out of your peripheral vision, maybe not part of maybe your budgeting app or something, part of your net worth tech stack, if you will. You don't see it every day. So maybe it's out of sight, out of mind. And number two, maybe a respect for the actual purpose. Maybe people are thinking through like, this is supposed to be my money for later in life, and kind of respecting the purpose for that. Maybe, I don't know.
You know what it is? It's more people are listening to the Fiscal Foxhole.
That's it. All four of them are listening to it, and 401k balances spot on.
By the way,
Great
if we ever do want to talk about economic indicators and whether the economy is doing well or not, all we have to do is just pull up two different news sites. I've got two in mind. We'll just pull them up and you'll see. Well, one, the economy's terrible. The other one's economy's great. You just got to pull up the right news site. How do I feel today?
That is definitely not. That's not this kind of podcast, Rob. That's not what
it is not.
No.
Yeah. If you want that, go somewhere else. You're not going to get that here. But anyway, a lot of good news there for people with their 401ks. I guess for the people that know what a 401k is, if I want to bring it back to the cynical side. But at the end of the day, real good news on that front. If there's nothing else to get into with that, let's jump into the meat of the episode. Like I said, we're going to be talking about TSP Roth conversions. So this is going to be Roth conversions called in-plan Roth conversions. And like I said, back in episode 10, we talked about the details. And, usually folks do this with IRAs. They'll call their custodian, Vanguard, Schwab, Fidelity, whatever, and they will tell them they want to convert from, their traditional IRA into a Roth, or a tax deferred IRA to a Roth, I should say. Well, the TSP has opened up the ability to do this in plan. So the money stays in the TSP, but instead of being on that tax deferred side, it was moved over to the Roth side. Now, the good news is a lot of the information about Roth conversions are standard, right? So they apply to the TSP, but there's a few wrinkles that we want to talk about that's unique to the TSP.
Yeah, when this news first came out, because there are 401k plans, civilian 401k plans that do allow in-plan Roth conversions. And I think amongst financial planners, especially those affiliated with the military, the desire to have the TSP do it was significant, right? We wanted this capability, but TSP, as well as many other military benefits, is done by the lowest bidder. So it's an administrative cost burden, right? And I'm not saying that the TSP is bad. I'm just saying that it's an administrative cost burden when you open up capabilities like an in-plan Roth conversion. So there's reasons why it hasn't been offered. And I don't know what the cost is, but whatever it has now been overcome, and now Roth conversions are available. But when I first heard this come out, I was particularly excited for situations where maybe as a military member or civilian member, you began to make contributions or deferrals into the 401k before you knew what a Roth was, right? Like you were already in a low tax bracket and you were doing a great thing by deferring money from your paycheck into the TSP. And then suddenly one day you heard something about a Roth and you read about it. You're like, oh man, I should have been putting in Roth this whole time. So you switch, but now you've got money in the tax deferred side and there was nothing you could do about it. Like you had to leave it there until you're done with your civilian government service or your military service. Then you could roll it out and then you could do a Roth conversion, but that could take years, decades maybe. And so just to have the ability now to, I don't want to say fix that mistake, but like that is what generally people do is like, oh, I can fix this real quick. I'm still in a low tax bracket and making conversions. So I was actually really excited to see this for that specific scenario.
Exactly. That's the good part. I think the best part is the fact you don't have to wait until those later years. A lot of people get out of the military and they get a decent paying job. So you have the taxable pension on top of another career, and you're later in your life, you're probably getting paid a lot. And you want to start to make these moves into a Roth. Well, your taxable income is going to be pretty high at that point. Now, real quick, before we dive into some of the details, the nice thing is you just did this with a client and you have a lot of experience. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. You have some experience, which is a lot compared to most people. You actually have some experience doing this. So you'll be able to provide some insight throughout this discussion on how it actually looks when you go in and do it on the TSP. Before we do that, I know we talked about a lot of the details about Roth conversions in episode 10. We do want to kind of revisit some of the main points before we talk about how maybe it's done in the TSP in-plan conversion, because a lot of it is standard, right? It's a lot of the rules still apply from IRA and the TSP. Backing up real far, the main point we want to send out there today is that doing a Roth conversion in any way, IRA, TSP, 401k, whatever plan you have, it doesn't fix a bad plan. This is not a magic trick, right? It's not going to make you financially successful if you've had a lot of bad behaviors already.
Yeah, I like to compare this to woodworking. I grew up with my dad as a fine woodworker. My grandpa was a fine woodworker. I'm a rough woodworker. I don't get into the fine trades, but in the art of woodworking, this is fine woodworking. Like the house is already built. You're already saving money. You already have a plan for what your income and expense projections kind of look like into the future. We have to back out of this thing entirely and look at your overall tax situation and where we think we can take advantage of that. Still looking through a crystal ball because we have no idea what tax laws will be like in the future, but we're optimizing here. This is fine woodworking at its best.
Right. You're polishing at this point. You've already done all of the good stuff, maybe the 50-30-20 or the 50-20-20-10, those types of ideas, or you're watching you budgeted. You've done all those things to make sure you're saving enough for retirement. You know what your expenses are. You know what your expected expenses are in retirement. You've done all the work. And now you're looking at like, okay, how can I optimize this from a tax standpoint? So in retirement, I've got options on where if I'm going to take money from the taxable side or the tax-free side of Roth, et cetera, you've got some options. Well, the other tool you want to throw in here is that taxable brokerage too. Usually people in the retirement years, they really succeed. They will thrive with those three different buckets. You've got the Roth side, the tax deferred side, and then the taxable brokerage or taxable savings, however you want to put it. The idea is having a mix of those three things gives you options on where you're going to take income from.
Yeah, I love that. That 3-bucket strategy is key. You've got 3 levers at which you can take a look at your tax year and project out, at least in that year. Like if you can't look more than a year ahead, at least in that year of what your income is going to look like in order to optimize your long-term capital gains out of a taxable account, your tax-deferred RMDs when you finally get to that age, and then kind of supplementing that with your Roth tax-free withdrawals, your distributions, I should say, at that point to kind of shore things up and make sure that you're not paying more taxes than you have to.
Well said. Now that we're talking about far out of the future in your retirement years, let's bring it back to today. When we're making this decision, we've got all this money in the tax deferred, the traditional side, and we're thinking about doing a Roth conversion. We have to make that decision in this year. Okay. The main argument that most people will start with when considering a Roth conversion is their current tax bracket and the estimated tax bracket in retirement. All right. That's the unknown. You don't know. Best you can do is guess. The idea is if your tax bracket is lower today than you expect it to be in retirement, then generally speaking, Roth conversions are a good idea.
And if you are in the military, especially early on in the military, you're probably in one of the lowest tax brackets you're ever going to be in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the clients that you and I deal with, Rob, they are exiting the military, retiring out of the military in the 22-24% tax bracket, and maybe even close to the top of that. The second they step over into a civilian job, especially if it's like a government contracting job, maybe even a civilian government employee, one of those jobs, they could easily step into the 32%, 35% tax bracket. So when you're in the military, and I think we've said this before, almost a third of your pay, was it almost a third? Maybe even more than that is tax-free. BAH, BAS, your deployment pay, like all these tax-free benefits automatically put you into a lower marginal bracket. And I want to be clear here. I'm not saying like instantaneously, everybody go make a Roth conversion. That is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if you're in the military, especially somebody who's just kind of getting started, first 5 years, 10 years, somewhere in there, I would look strongly at this because it's most likely that you are in one of the lowest tax brackets you will ever be in until you stop working.
To support your point, I've got clients that are dual military or maybe a higher grade, single military and the spouse doesn't work. And they're still in the 12%. They're living a really good life. They're making good cash flow and they're building wealth and they're enjoying their life. And we look and you're in the 12% tax bracket. They're actually sometimes in the 0% long-term capital gains brackets. Like it's crazy. The benefit of having that non-taxable side of your income really pulls you down those lower brackets, has you opportunity for a lot of things, including Roth conversions. So don't just assume because you're making a lot of money that you're in a high tax bracket. You're probably not compared to, like you said, what you're going to be making when you get out. Now, just to kind of paint a really broad brush over that, the idea is, if you think about it, that conversion, remember, the conversion is taxable. So we should point that out, right? I'm not going to assume that everyone knows everything about this. So we're just going to back up, just make it real obvious. When you make a Roth conversion, if you convert $40,000 from your tax deferred to Roth, that is $40,000 worth of taxable income. Okay, so that means you have to pay taxes on it. You don't receive it, it goes into your Roth account, but you have to pay taxes on it. So the idea is, because you're in that 12% tax bracket, or if you fill it up or whatever, then you're paying 12% on that 40 grand. expecting in the future in retirement, you're going to be in the 20, 22, 24, newer tax brackets that will probably exist
whatever
by
they
then.
are in the future.
That you're going to end up paying higher taxes in the future. So you're avoiding that higher tax bracket in the future by paying it today. So that's the general rub. Those are the general ideas of what we're talking about. Now let's get into that you have to pay taxes on the conversion amount.
So one thing I wanted to point out here, Rob, is that some people might not know what their tax bracket is, right?
Okay.
Like, I think when people file their taxes, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but sometimes I would just file my taxes and I'd get the refund and I'd just kind of move on with my life. I didn't actually pay attention to the number, to the amount of taxable income I actually had. So especially right now, because we are in the middle of tax filing season, if you've already filed your taxes or you're getting ready to file your taxes, take a look at your Form 1040. So it's going to should be on the front page, like bottom of the front page or the top of the second page. All right. Line 15 is your taxable income. That taxable income is, when you match that up with the tax brackets, that number is what goes into that tax bracket. So for instance, if in the 12% married filing jointly in 2026, if your taxable income falls between $24,801 and $100,800, you are in the 12% tax bracket. Rob, I mean, we're talking lieutenants, captains, probably majors might be starting to break out of that married filing jointly, especially if they got a spouse that's working. But I mean, that's significant. On the enlisted side, you're probably talking E7, E8, maybe
by themselves.
Probably E7. Married filing jointly.
Well, remember though, you got this. That's after the deductions. That's after the standard deduction. So we're talking 139,000. So before so this is after all that stuff. You can make a lot of money and then still end up at that 12% tax bracket.
Yeah, if you standard deduction anyway is large. Married filing jointly, 31,500 this year.
Currently.
But if you itemize because you own a home and you give away a lot to charity or something like that, right? Or you live in California and you're taxed by California, state and local taxes, right? Like if you itemize, that has a lot of deductions that go into it and reduce your taxable income. But still, like it's pretty hard to actually get out of the 12% tax bracket while you're in the military and into the 22% tax bracket. But this is just more educational of how do you even know what tax bracket you're in? Look at line 15 on your 1040 and compare that to, you can just Google the 2026 tax brackets.
Or hire a professional. We're here to help.
Of course.
So once you got your tax bracket and you know what you're paying, that's your marginal tax bracket. That's what you would have paid on the next dollar you've earned, or up to a certain point. So let's say you're under that 100. Was it 108,000 for the 12%?
100,800.
100,800. Okay, so let's say you were under that significantly. Then the 12% was called your marginal tax bracket. It means the amount of money you would have paid on the next dollar, up to that amount. So when it comes to Roth conversions, if the soldier or service member did a $10,000 Roth conversion, provided they stayed under that 100,800, it means they would have had a tax bill of $1,200 on the conversion. Again, reminder, it goes into your Roth account. It doesn't, or your Roth TSP, it doesn't go in your pocket, but it is treated as income. So come tax time, you will owe $1,200 on that converted amount. This episode is brought to you by the Military Financial Advisors Association.
MFAA is a global network of independent, fee-only fiduciary financial advisors who specialize in serving military families.
And we're not just highlighting it. Omen and I are members ourselves, so we know firsthand what they stand for.
That's right. Every member of MFAA is either active duty, a veteran, or a military spouse, so they truly understand the unique financial challenges that come with military life.
Plus, every advisor must hold or be actively pursuing the CFP designation, which is the gold standard in financial planning.
So let's put that together. When you choose an advisor with MFAA, you are getting a professional who won't sell you a product, who knows the military life, and will plan using your hard-earned military benefits.
Whether you're navigating a step out of the military after 4 years, a military retirement, or a transition into a work-optional lifestyle, MFAA advisors speak your language.
Visit militaryfinancialadvisors.org to find an advisor who fits your mission.
MFAA, real advice, real experience.
This advertisement is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. All investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Information and opinions provided within the Fiscal Foxhole do not necessarily reflect official positions or opinions of the Military Financial Advisors Association or its members. Consult a qualified financial professional before making any financial decisions.
All right, so you're facing that $1,200 tax payment on the $10,000. The question now you have to ask is, do you have the cash to pay it? Because here's the rub. You can't withhold from that. All right. Just think about it. If you do a $10,000 conversion and then you tell the TSP to withhold $1,200 to pay taxes, where's that $1,200 going to go? It's going to go to the IRS, right? On whose behalf? Your behalf. So the IRS is going to see that and it's going to be like, okay, well then this came from you. So ergo, you've received that $1,200 from the TSP and then you've given it to the IRS. That's how what the withholding did. So what you've done is you actually created a distribution, probably a not qualified distribution. You're going to have to pay additional taxes and penalties on. So I'm sorry, I'm getting into the details here. The point is you have to pay out of pocket this tax burden for any conversion you do.
Yeah, I mean, such a great point because it doesn't just apply to TSP and plan Roth conversions. It applies to Roth conversions, period. If you are not yet 59 and a half and you do a Roth conversion, do not withhold taxes. Like TSP makes it easy because you can't. Like you literally cannot do it. There's no option for you to withhold. And this is state too. So no federal, no state taxes. But if you're at your brokerage, Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab, something like that, and you do a Roth conversion and they give you the option to withhold federal and state taxes and you're not yet 59 and a half, don't do it. This is why we're telling you don't do it, is because it's considered a distribution. It goes to your pocket, quote, air quotes here that you can't see. It goes to your pocket to be paid to the IRS. It is a distribution, and now you'll be penalized on top of the tax.
All right, so it has to come out of your pocket. You have to pay it directly. Now, you didn't have to pay it directly with the TSP. It just goes in as a recorded distribution or tax. I'm sorry, not distribution. I should say taxable income, right? It gets reported to the IRS. You don't have to pay it right away. All right, there's a lot of things you can do. You could do a quarterly payment to the IRS. You can send them money anytime you want. You could do that. You could do the calculations to make sure you're under the safe harbor guidelines. We talked about those before. Those are kind of complicated. Don't want to get into it. But basically, if you've got, let's say last year you got a $3,000 refund and nothing else really changed in your life, okay, this year, and you're probably going to be kind of around the same thing. Well, then doing this 10,000 conversions, you're probably going to be fine. You know what I mean? I say this with all disclaimers available. Like, I don't know. But if you're someone who kind of rides the line with your taxes, you end up owing a lot of money every year because you're trying to maximize holding on to as much cash as possible, this might tip you over into some safe harbor violations that you weren't aware of. And now you might have penalties because you didn't pay it ahead of time. So it might be worth paying it to the IRS. You can go on the website and make a payment whenever you want that will be applied towards your overall taxes for the year.
Yeah. So in the example of the client that I was working with, they are so young in doing the conversion and they make so little money in the military so far that they actually don't even have a tax bill, right? The standard deduction them completely wipes out their taxes, right? So in this particular case, he had withholdings from a signing bonus that he had that was going to be paid back anyway. And so just like you said, those extra withholdings that were going to be a refund actually covered the cost of the conversion. So yeah, it was just a super nice example of how we could draw that out in terms of if you are one to get large refunds every year, that is a way to cover the cost of it. A couple other ways you mentioned.
I want to add in. Before you move on, this kind of goes to show how valuable tax planning is. I know this is another topic. This is what you and I do with our clients. Is sometimes we see folks, we do the tax planning at the end, or quarter four, and we see this expected huge refund coming for the year, well, that's a great opportunity. It's like, hey, do you really need this liquid cash as a refund for next year? And if the answer is no, they've got plenty of liquid cash. It's like, okay, well, maybe we apply that towards a Roth conversion. And as long as we do it before the end of the year, then their refund, what they would have gotten, can get applied to the Roth conversion, and they don't really feel it. And now they're better off for the long run.
I was going to mention two other ways. Well, really one other way, because you already mentioned paying quarterly taxes. If you already know, like you owe $1,200 on this thing, and you want to just go ahead and pay $300 a quarter and just get it paid for by the time you come around, then great. This is the more complicated way, but I have seen people do this, and that is to actually turn up your withholding on your W-2 for the year. But what that means is then you have to turn around and do it again next year, like turn it back down again so that you're not over withholding the following year. So that one's, I would not necessarily recommend doing that, but in the terms of what you feel and don't feel, because you just mentioned it, Rob, like if you know you're about to get a refund and you do this Roth conversion because you know the refund will pay for it, it's girl math, right? Like it's like free money.
We just lost all. Yeah, we just lost all the new subscribers.
You think I'm lying about this though? Like,
I know.
Megan tells me this all the time.
Yeah.
This is girl math, right?
Yeah.
Like it's free money because it's just sitting there and it can pay for the Roth conversion. It's kind of like the same thing with your withholdings. If you're just withholding more money throughout the year to pay for that, you feel it just a little bit less.
Yeah, I agree with you. Adjusting withholdings, I don't love that one because, like you said, the next year, then it's kind of a mess. The next year might end up with like a crazy refund, which you don't want that either. I do like to, if you want to sleep better at night and you know what your marginal tax rate is, then just make a payment to the IRS, and then you're fine. Like like this, pending any other major differences in your life for that year, then you're going to be fine. You'll probably get a similar refund back you did last year, and you're covered, and you don't have to worry about hiring knuckleheads like you and me to plan their taxes efficiently every year. You're covered.
I will. All
right. So
can I just point out one thing real quick? Like,
no, we're going to jump on to
calculator. No. I'm interrupting you, Rob. That's my goal for the year is to interrupt you as much as possible.
Perfect.
Good.
All right.
Hey, the Dinky Town calculator, right? Like we've pointed this Dinky Town calculator out quite a bit. Like I said, it's good for the rough math on what your taxes are going to be for the year. If you collect up all your income statements, you look at your taxes from last year, and not a lot has changed in your life. Even if you do have a kid, you can add in there, like I've got another dependent, so that's going to give me a $2,200 child tax credit. Like you can add those things in and do your own estimate on what your taxes are going to be for the year. So that just another plug for that Dinky Town calculator.
Speaking of calculators, you mentioned there was one on the TSP website.
Yes, 100%. Like if you, again, one more thing that you can Google, we'll put a link to it in the show note, but the Roth in-plan TSP calculator, it looks a little bit intimidating, but it's actually not as bad as you think. As you walk through this, and I'm not going to sit here and walk through all the calculations, but ultimately the calculator is going to ask you questions about how much money you're going to convert and how are you going to pay for it? Like with what money are you going to pay for it? And if you didn't make that conversion, what would you use that money for? Would you use it to invest, or would you have just saved it as cash? Like what would you have done? And then as you walk through this, it's going to ask you like, what tax bracket are you in today, both federal and state? And then what do you expect to be later on in life? And it's going to ask you how long you expect to be continuing to invest in the TSP fund. And the output of the calculator is pretty cool, right? In most cases, like it's really hard to break this thing and not have it tell you that a Roth conversion is going to be better. Like you'd have to be in a really high tax bracket for the Roth conversion not to work out in your favor. But just a couple of notes to emphasize some things that you and I have already said, Rob, that, if you, let's take this amount. So I put $100,000 in, and I said, we're in the 22% tax bracket when we do the Roth conversion. We're in the 24% when we take it out whenever we want it. And to pay the $22,000 of taxes, we're going to use cash that we would have invested otherwise, like it would have been in a taxable account somewhere. So here's kind of the crazy numbers here, is that the amount that you convert to Roth after 20 years, $100,000 would be worth $492,680 on an 8% return 20 years from now. If you didn't, that same amount of money in the tax deferred side of the house would only be worth $349,800 on that same 8% return because of the taxes that accompany that distribution. The taxes, you pay $22,000 in taxes today. The taxes over the life of the money in the TSP then would be estimated almost $143,000 of taxes. It's huge.
Yeah, because, well, to clarify for our listeners, the ending amount of $100,000 in the Roth side or the traditional side, the ending amount is exactly the same. That's not what Omen's clarifying. What he's clarifying is what we call tax-adjusted ending assets. So it's what it feels like, or is what you could get after you end up paying taxes on it. With on the Roth side, you're not paying any taxes because tax-free. Your point is with taking money out, that same amount that would have been in the Roth, you're taking it out, it's going to be a lot less of what you actually get because you're paying the tax. And the difference is the taxes you're paying is the difference between those two numbers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to and the calculator goes one step further. And this is where I think we move from the rough cut woodworking to fine woodworking. Like this really kind of brings this all together about the fact that this is just optimization. This isn't making or breaking, because that would be a significant move. Like everybody would pick Roth all the time if that were the move, right? We cannot forget about the $22,000 that we would have invested in a taxable account that at this time is going to be long-term capital gains 15% when we draw it out. It also grew at an 8% rate. Like we're just assuming that it grew at an 8% rate. That amount of money minus the long-term capital gain taxes actually takes the tax deferred amount, like after all things are said and done, would have been worth $445,000 to your $492,000 of Roth. It's not significantly different. Like it's about $50,000 different there, but it's only $50,000 different. So that's what I'm saying is like, and I probably did not explain that very well, but you cannot forget about the money that you would have invested in a taxable account, because that matters too. And those taxes matter too. So at the end of the day, again, optimization.
Yeah, you did a good job. That stuff, it's easy to understand. You have to just spend some time thinking about it, really. Because I remember when I started out with this business and I was listening to some material about this or reading it, I had to slow down. Like, wait a minute, what? Like the accounting for the amount you would have paid in taxes. Because to me, I think a lot of people with the tax deferred side, if they're saving that money on taxes, probably gets absorbed into their lifestyle. So you have to, that would be if someone had made the real conscious decision of investing their tax savings, or like, hey, we're already at a 10% savings rate and we're doing all this tax deferred stuff. So let's increase our savings rate to recoup that tax savings. I doubt that's really happening, except for uber nerds like you and me. But when it comes to the math side of analyzing the value of one over the other, you should consider that, because we're talking about the potential value of that money that you're saving, or regardless of whether you spend it all on eating out or going on trips, or if you save and invest it. But it should be considered. All right. I know we're throwing a lot of numbers and high level conceptual stuff. So if you're still with us, there's a few other reasons or other strategies you should use. It's not all about comparing your tax bracket today versus your tax bracket into the future, which is unknown. There's other strategies, because I don't know about you, but I've got some clients in the higher income level, those higher tax brackets. We still do them every once in a while, but it's for different reasons. The first one is, like I said, filling up that refund. Okay, so they expect maybe to get a $4,000 refund back. They don't need it. And yeah, sure, I don't know if it's going to be the most mathematically satisfying thing to do, over the long term, but maybe they don't have enough Roth accounts. Maybe they're all tax deferred. It's like, okay, we have to start. So let's start here. Let's move over enough to fill up that tax refund, or for the tax refund to pay for. The next thing you want to do, going back to the tax bracket side, is you might want to think about filling up a tax bracket. So let's say you're $35,000 under the max limit for the 12% tax bracket. Maybe you want to fill that up. Maybe you want to hey, let's go 35, let's go crazy, pay 12% and stop there, because above that, you're going to be paying a lot more taxes on the next dollars. We try to aim for it. It's not like an exact number you go over. It's not a big deal, but the idea is fill up that tax bracket on the conversion.
Yeah, I'm doing this with several clients right now. And Rob, this can get into a little bit of opinion based, right? Like, I don't know what you think about the 22 and the 24% tax brackets, but personally, I don't think that they're terrible. I think that if you are making a choice between paying 22% or 24% on money in that bracket today versus what we don't know is going to be the future of our taxes later, I'm okay with that. And I think most of my clients are as well. So I love this idea of filling up that tax bracket of 22, 24%.
My opinion is we project a plan as if we're doing it every year to fill up a tax bracket, but we take the actual conversions year by year.
Yeah.
There might be hey, in retirement, once you do retire in 5 years, we're going to start filling up this tax bracket. Well, this year might present an opportunity to do it. So we might just do it anyway. We take it on a year by year basis, basically. Another reason you might do it, especially if you're in a higher tax bracket now, is avoiding RMDs. So, and I don't mean avoiding them entirely, but we can see sometimes in the future, like I said, going back to the example of someone with a lot of tax deferred assets, the traditional side of the TSP or IRA, when you get to age 73, pending the amount you're taking out in the meantime, that might actually explode you into higher tax brackets you haven't seen your entire life. And all of a sudden, you're forced to take these distributions as RMDs, and it might blow you out into the 32% tax bracket, but you've been in the 20 your whole life. So, looking really far ahead and trying to project, doing that, little chunks along the way might bring down, that huge tax burden later in life and save you a lot of money.
You just touched on a point that I try to get across pictorially with my words, however I can, to people who live in the scarcity mindset, because they don't understand, especially military retirees. A lot of military retirees don't understand how valuable their military pension is. And then all of a sudden they get one, and then they claim Social Security, also taxable.
Yep.
And then they have a bunch saved up in tax deferred accounts, and they have to start taking required minimum distributions by the time, in this case, probably by the time they're 75, 73 or 75, whatever your age requirement is. But when you stack those three incomes on top of each other, you're spot on. If you thought that you didn't have enough income to live, and now all of a sudden you've got way more income that you know what to do with, and you don't have a choice. You have to take that amount of money out every year. I love how Benjamin Brandt, I think I've mentioned him on the podcast before, talks about RMDs. The ultimate goal for RMDs is to have the perfect RMD. And that perfect RMD is whatever your expenses are, the RMD comes up just underneath that. All of your required income comes up just underneath your required expenses. Is there any way that we'll ever hit the perfect RMD?
No.
There's no way. There's no way. But what we can do, though, I'd rather come up short than be forced into an income tax bracket that I don't want to be a part of.
Yeah. It's hard to sell that, though, sometimes, because people see that and they're like, what, my RMD is going to be how much? Okay, I'll pay taxes on that. That's a lot of money, right? So it's helpful to show the lifetime tax savings of this. If we could do that with our software, we can say if you do a $30,000 this year, what the lifetime tax savings would be, and it's always huge. That usually is kind of starts to wet the whistle a little bit. Oh, okay, I see what you mean. That's money the IRS would have gotten, and otherwise they're not. So yeah, avoiding the RMDs is another reason. A couple other little things. Converting when the market is down. I talked about this a couple episodes ago. Just remember, if you're trying to get 100 shares over, if you're doing it when the market is up, it's going to cost you more in taxes than doing it when the market is down. So especially, I keep saying this, is we have a potential correction ahead of us. Sure tried it a couple weeks ago, though, right? It seemed like the market was trying to correct.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have a pending correction that feels like ahead of us. When that happens, it might be a good time to explore some conversions when you could get it on the cheap. And the other one, if you don't have any Roth at all, right? Like I mentioned back at the beginning of the episode, it's always a good idea to have some tax deferred, some tax free, and some taxable, those 3 buckets available to you. So, in a year where you do want to buy, you need to buy a new car in retirement, you can kind of pick and choose where you take it so you could optimize your taxable income for the year. All right, we're going a little bit long here, which I'm actually kind of surprised about, but there's a lot of meat on this, even though the points we've written down aren't that many. I think we just like talking about it. So let's kind of summarize this up a little bit. Knowing everything we've said, okay, should we do a Roth conversion? That's the question. Or I should say, should we do it in plan Roth conversion?
Either in plan or a regular Roth conversion. We'll stick to the in plan because that's the title of the episode here today. But don't be arbitrary about it. Have a plan. Like, know what you're stepping into. That is the one takeaway that I had for the Roth conversion tool within TSP, which, by the way, was really easy. As long as you had your plan, you can get through that calculator. We got through it in probably less than 2 minutes. But on every single screen, every one of them, huge warning. This is going to have income tax implications. Are you sure you want to do this? So if you don't have a plan and you start to go through this conversion process on the TSP website and you just are continually asked like are you sure? Are you really, really sure? You probably won't be if you don't have a plan for this. So have a plan, be confident in your plan, and make the conversion.
Thinking we had this written down a little bit later in the episode, but or at the bottom of this list, but I want to bring it up now. About not being arbitrary. This kind of falls in line sometimes. I think people just get in love with the Roth side of things. Or maybe they did the Roth early and they really like that tax-free income that's going to be happening in retirement. And so they start like, oh yeah, Roth, everything Roth, all their contributions, they're converting if they have any tax deferred, just fall in love with Roth. You got to be careful not to over Roth your retirement. This is the third time I'm bringing it up now in the same episode. You want to have some in each of those buckets, tax-free, tax deferred, and taxable. Those 3 buckets. So if you're moving everything to Roth, guess what? If you get to retirement and okay, never mind. Yeah, we're going to have the pension, Social Security probably, but there are lower tax brackets that you want to take advantage of, right? So remember like 10%, 12% goes up pretty high. So if you get everything into a Roth, you're missing out on those kind of lower tax brackets in retirement. So it's like a way to kind of keep paying taxes for the rest of your life, but just kind of flattening that out across the board. You put everything into Roth, you're paying a premium today to pay nothing in taxes in the future, which isn't necessarily going to be a good thing, even though it does sound like it would be a good thing. A couple of points to hit here before we move on. Think through the taxes. Do you think you're paying less tax now? We've hit that quite a bit already. And have the cash. Once again, have the cash or adjust your withholdings to pay for the conversion. You got to think about that too. It goes back to your point about have a plan.
I wanted to note a couple of other points, and really these were lessons learned out of the research for doing the in-plan Roth conversion for this client. You can do one of these conversions 26 times per account per year. 26 times. So if you have a military account and you have
unlimited.
Unlimited. Yeah. If you have a military account and a civilian account, you can do this 26 times per account. All right. I don't know why you would ever do that, but like that tells me you don't have a plan. That's what that tells me.
Right. YOLO, going on vibes whenever you feel like it.
Dollar at a time.
Yeah.
A minimum of $500 has to be converted, and a minimum of $500 actually has to be left in the account from all sources except for tax deferred roll-in. So what that means is if you were to have rolled a traditional IRA into the TSP, which you can do, the TSP allows it, you can convert the entirety of that amount. Like you don't have to leave anything left in that account, or that portion of the account, I should say. But if all your tax deferred contributions to the TSP, you have to leave a $500 floor in that account. And TSP describes that as costs for potential administrative errors, I think is how they word that. So pretty interesting.
It is the government. It is the government after all.
Yep. And then to your point, about like, how do you know what your taxes are? You might not actually know. If you've done this plan, you've used the Dinkytown calculator, or you worked with somebody, you probably know what your taxes are going to be owed on the conversion itself. But all in all, if you do a conversion, you need to expect a 1099-R next year. So wait for that 1099-R before you file your taxes next year. You should have it by January 31st. But you'll get a 1099-R. It'll have the converted amount on there. It's going to have a taxable amount on there for the same amount because you now owe taxes on it. So be on the lookout for that.
If you do your taxes by January 31st, you're a nerd.
You have to tell people to slow down.
You're a loser if you do your taxes.
You have to
by
slow
January
down.
31st. I don't love taxes. I like finances. I like doing all this stuff. I don't do it by January 31st. Have we talked about the Simpsons episode where, and I don't remember which one is, where it opens up with it's New Year's Eve. Have I talked about this?
I think so, no.
It's so great. It opens up on New Year's Eve, like the countdown for January 1st, and the ball's dropping, and Homer's partying, whatever, and it switches to New Year's, right, at midnight, and then it switches to Ned Flanders' house, and his alarm clock's going off. It's midnight, and he wakes up and turns off his alarm, and he runs downstairs and he starts doing his taxes. And by sunrise, he's mailing his taxes in. And then, of course, April 15th comes and Homer is like, wait, what? What are taxes? Like, I have to do my taxes. I always think about that when people are like, I got my taxes done by January 12th. I'm like, all right, Flanders, good job. Well done. Yeah, but don't
worry about all the 20 missed forms that are coming in the mail after that. So.
Exactly. A lot of trouble coming your way. Well, I think we've had about as much fun as we could with this, but the really nice thing is that this is available now. It's live. You've walked through it. It's really easy. It kind of held your hand and warned you of all the things we've talked about throughout this, especially the cash on hand to pay the taxes, the biggest one. Regardless of how you plan or if you know it's a good idea or not, that's the biggest hang up where you have to be prepared to pay the taxes. So as we've hammered that sufficiently, I believe, and painted a clear picture of the TSP, it is time to wrap this up and move into our trivia segment. This is the ongoing trivia challenge between Omen and myself, of which we are holding the score under lock and key until the end of the year. So if you're listening along and keeping track, we're planning on having a fun game to play along with our listeners to see who can get closest to the actual score for the year. But right now, we've hinted at the fact that you're off to a good start, Omen. Congratulations. But the year is long and it's still early, and I'm looking forward to catching up today.
Yeah, you might actually get this one. We'll see. So I tried to find one that was related to our show and kept coming up with all these easy. I mean, you just went through the CFP academics not too long ago. So finding questions that are related to Roth conversions, you've already been tricked up by the CFP exam. So you probably already knew all the answers. So I had to come up with something new.
Can I interrupt you though? Do you remember was it 2 weeks ago when you buried the bar so low for me? You're like, you're going to get this. Like, you're such an idiot if you don't get this right. It was such a backhanded setup.
It was chocolate.
It's such a backhanded setup. But I'm like, why would you say that? Why would you be like, only an idiot would get this wrong? I asked everybody I knew and everyone got it right, and only an idiot. So here you go. You're welcome. You knew what you were doing. So now you say the same thing. You'd like to find an easy one. All right. See which way I can screw this up.
I'm telling you, I found out. I think it's a hard one. We'll see.
Oh, you think it's hard? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's hard.
All right. Good.
No.
All right.
I mean, idiot. Just kidding.
Yeah. No, you're not.
All right. Here we go. The Roth in Roth IRA is named after which of the following? Is it A, a financial economist who pioneered after-tax retirement theory? B, a Treasury official who designed the Roth as a revenue strategy? C, a U.S. senator who sponsored the legislation creating it? Or D, an IRS commissioner who rewrote retirement tax rules in the 1990s?
It's B or C. And I believe it was a legislator They did it because someone working for the Treasury would have allowed anybody to contribute to the Roth. I'm going to stand by that. Like, I just don't understand. I just don't understand why they don't allow people to do it. So based on some of the wonky little like nuances like that, I'm going to go for C because I believe it was a government official and I believe it was a legislator. So let's go. C was the senator, correct?
Yeah, it was C. Are you sure about that?
I'm as sure as my vibes tell me that I think I'm correct. I think it's C. Yeah.
I have to tell you that your vibes are correct.
Hey. when you said that, when you started this out, I was expecting names. I'm like, did he find 4 people named Roth? And then I have to pick. I'm like, this might be easier than I think. But then when you did provide names, I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'm wrong.
Is it Bob Roth? Yeah. John Roth? Peter Roth?
Yeah. I was, but when you said senator, I'm like, I've done enough reading on this. I was pretty sure that was correct. So thank you for that. That wasn't as challenging.
That was a pitch.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Knock that one out. It feels good to get one right every once in a while. And I stress every once in a while. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today. Thanks again for the listeners sharing this to others. We really appreciate the increase in traffic. We want to spread all this good financial knowledge and entertainment out to everybody and get the conversations flowing. So please share this with others. Help us out. Leave a review, subscribe, like, share, all those things that the tacky social media influencers say. It really does help. So we appreciate it. Had a lot of fun today talking about TSP and plain Roth conversions along with the other fun. But to wrap it up, we all have our takeaways. Omen, what are our takeaways from today?
Key takeaway number 1, 401k balances didn't jump 13% because people became investing geniuses. They rose because consistent contributions and automation did the work. The real lesson? Wealth grows when saving is automatic and left alone. Key takeaway number 2, a Roth conversion isn't Roth good, traditional bad. It's about choosing when to pay taxes. You're locking in today's marginal rate in exchange for tax-free growth later, which only makes sense if today's rate is meaningfully lower than what you would expect in the future. And key takeaway number 3, the real power of Roth isn't just tax-free withdrawals, it's tax diversification. Having both traditional and Roth money gives you control over your taxable income in retirement, which can help you manage brackets, Social Security taxation, and Medicare premiums.
Nailed it.
We'd love to hear from you. If you have questions you'd like answered on the show, please send us a note to fiscalfoxhole@gmail.com. If you heard something today that you'd like to discuss further, or you just want to dig deeper into your own financial game plan, both Rob and Omen are accepting new clients and always happy to chat. You'll find the links to their websites or to book appointments in the show notes. Rob Moore and Omen Quellvog are both registered investment advisor representatives. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. While they are both advisors, they are not your advisors. Therefore, nothing you hear on Fiscal Foxhole should be taken as specific investment, legal, or tax advice. For guidance tailored to your situation, please consult a qualified professional who understands your individual circumstances.
I forgot about the grok voice.
Nice job. That was awesome. Have you and Megan been watching the Olympics?
We were commenting on that just last night. That I don't know why. We usually just even have it on in the background. Like it would be playing right now, just in the living room next door, just so I can peek my head at what's going on. But not this year for some reason. I don't know why.
I feel the same way. And we are nuts for the Olympics. Our whole family, like we get all into it, have Olympic themed snacks for opening ceremonies, have, kind of blow it out, have a big party. Well, just our family, we watch the opening ceremonies and get into it. I don't know why it feels different this year too. The Super Bowl felt that way. The Olympics kind of feel that way. I don't know why I can't speak to it. I don't know if it's maybe the lack of intriguing storylines. There are some good ones, but, and we're watching some events. We have it on, a lot of times I do some work. I kind of throw it on, have it up there just to kind of watch. But I've been enjoying it. But yeah, I haven't really been fist pumping as much as I normally do in watching it.
Yeah. So last night we actually did cut it on for just a little while, and we were watching Long Jump. Was it Long Jump? What's
ski jump?
The ski jump? What's that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ski jump.
Oh, it's a ski jump. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, see how much I know. And so I forget exactly what the cue was, but Megan said, she said toe tap or something like toe pick. That's what it is. Toe pick. And I looked at her like, what are you talking about? And she says, have you never seen The Cutting Edge? I said, no. Say, oh, well, we're turning off the Olympics. So we watched the Olympics for all of 5 minutes so that we could then turn on The Cutting Edge. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
Dude, it's pure 1980s. Like if you love 1980s movies and music, like The Cutting Edge is for you. It is about a hockey player who got injured and he could not play hockey anymore, but like in his desperation to just skate,
he's a figure skater.
Yeah.
I've seen this. Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So fun movie. And I enjoyed it. I was never a fan of 80s music. Like I like some of the hair band stuff, but like, I'm Metallica, Guns N' Roses, like that kind of stuff, but like not this 80s music.
Not Poison, not Rat.
No.
Yeah, no.
Not really, no. No.
Well, but did you and Megan hold hands through the entire movie?
So funny enough, when we sit on the couch, our 80-pound dog has to be in the middle of us. So no, we did not hold hands.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you enjoyed your evening. We watched. Well, we didn't watch any yesterday because we went skiing, and I can tie this in. We had never been skiing when it's above 45, and I texted a buddy of mine who is a skier. And I said, "Hey, what's it going to be like? Like, what are the conditions?" And he was like, "Oh, it's perfect. Like, it's going to be." You're going to love it. The snow will be great. And actually really wonderful conditions. What he meant was it's going to be a lot faster. I was not expecting that. So my poor daughter was learning. I was teaching her. My sons took off. And yeah, it was hard for her initially because even the bunny hill was really small. She was kind of taken off. And throughout the day, that's what we realized. We went up there once we finally got to the greens, and my other son and I did one blue, which was, it was a lot of fun. The first time I've done that. But my point to this is it feels like you're going insanely fast when you're just on a normal green hill. It feels like you're flying. But when you step back and look at yourself, or like I take a video of the kids going down, it looks like they're riding a tricycle. It looks like they're going so slow, and they watch it. They're like, I'm going that slow? Like, I feels like I'm going so fast. And I'm the same way. I go down a blue. It felt like I was basically controlled falling down the hill. And I turn around and look at the people behind me. It looks like they're just kind of like floating down the hill. No problem. They're going just as fast as I was. It's a really, it's an interesting kind of perception thing that you don't realize when you're watching the Olympics, because those people are flying. And you don't realize how fast they're going. They're going insanely fast.
Yeah. And they look like they're going fast. So what does it actually feel like to them?
Right. Well, that's when those drones, that's cool. I will say this, like that is really cool because that gives you an actual idea of how fast they're going. I wonder if have you seen the big air? So snowboard or ski big air. Have you seen that?
Not this year, no.
Okay, so there's that. And there's the other one where they're going down the hill. The big air is the one where they take one giant jump. So it's a snowboarder, skier. They go down a big ramp and they take one giant jump and they do crazy tricks. And there's another one where they go down and it's like, slope style is what it's called. So they go down and they hit like rails and little jumps. And there's like big jumps built into it too. So doing a whole bunch of tricks. Well, that drone's behind them the whole time. And have you heard it? It's like a really high pitched whine. You can hear it when you're watching it. Yeah. So I was wondering myself, like, 4 years of prep going into it, they're mentally like dialed in for this one jump that if they don't land, they could either land it and win the gold medal or not land it and then become paralyzed for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And for the first time, like this really high pitched buzz. I always wonder if that would mess with them.
I wonder if that's a train with that, but I mean, no worry. They can just have the lasers in New Mexico shoot down the drone if they want.
One more drone joke. I was watching because I watched the drones they do for bobsled, skeleton luge. They do it for the ice track. They do it for like the downhill or whatever. They do some for cross country skiing, which is fun. They get different views, vantage points. Next year in 4 years, in 4 years, I want them to do it in curling. Nice. I want to throw I want them to throw the stone and then just have a drone just like going 2 miles an hour above them, just kind of like going like just to capture the excitement of it, right?
They probably can't do that because the drone would affect the trajectory of the rock.
It's not a sport, man. It's a game. Come on.